Okay, Paperny, it's Paperny. Listen, Paperny, I met 7 new prisoners this week. 5 of them at least are living in Fantasyland. My first 4.5 months in federal prison, I worked in the kitchen. And right alongside me was a long term prisoner serving 10 or 11 years for a nonviolent drug crime. He was very funny, very witty, and I didn't talk a whole lot. I would listen, kind of laugh at times. But he would always assess someone's adjustment in prison based on what he'd heard. And then he'd say, this dude lives in Fantasyland, this guy's realistic. Well, since my release from prison, I have at times used this gauge of is someone living in Fantasyland or is it realistic? Unfortunately, in the prison space or mitigation space, there is like a deliberate indifference to evidence. In other words, judges will tell you what to do and then you don't do it. It's just so fascinating to me. I can understand if you're watching this thinking, hey, it's in this guy's interest to say it. And by the way, if you're here, please like and subscribe. We're so grateful. But I can understand some cynicism if you were to say, hey, it's in this guy, Justin Paperny's interest from White Collar Advice to say to do this, because maybe we'll pick up the phone and hire him. Whether you hire us or you just take our advice and implement it, we are telling you what to do. But if you do think it's in our interest to say it, we are channeling thoughts directly from federal judges that we've interviewed on YouTube to that end. Earlier this week, and I'm going to read the exact quote the executive told me. It was an executive in Southern California convicted at trial, looking to mitigate, wanted to proceed with the narrative, character reference letters, prepare for the PSR, convicted at trial, mind you. I spoke with our team, and the exact words were, my attorney has it all under control. This is the fantasy. I hate to laugh. I want to be sympathetic. But this executive saw the interviews with judges. Judge Boo and Judge Bennett told him what to do. Yet he said, my attorney has it all under control, and he isn't worried about sentencing because he knows the judge. If I had a penny for every time I've heard a defendant say there is really no need to prepare because my lawyer knows the judge, I wouldn't be on YouTube, and I wouldn't be here peddling books you can get for free at White Collar Advice. I'd be retired at 47, and I'd be playing a whole lot more golf and spending time with my wife and kids. So let me speak directly to those of you who want to prepare, who want to embrace the reality and not have what I would say is a deliberate indifference to evidence. Do you think it's realistic if you were convicted at trial or pled guilty that you're going to get the best possible outcome because your lawyer knows the judge? Now, let me be clear. If your lawyer has any experience in federal court, of course they're going to know the judge. But our team frequently hears defendants insinuate that because their lawyer knows the judge, it essentially means they don't have to do anything worse. When a defendant is afraid to hold their lawyer accountable, or a defendant doesn't prepare for the PSR, doesn't write that narrative, what they then say is, it's all good, man. My lawyer knows the judge. It gives them a reason to be lazy, or as my friend serving 11 years for a nonviolent drug crime in prison like to say, that dude is in Fantasyland, and I feel bad for his wife and his kids because he has no idea what's waiting for him on the other side. Just like this defendant in Southern California has no idea what's waiting for him at sentencing when he doesn't mitigate and works under this mistaken belief that my lawyer knows the judge. I'm curious, when defendants say that, do they think that their lawyer has an in? Or because their lawyer really knows the judge, that's going to lead to a much better or significant outcome? In my experience, and again, I'm not impugning the character of all lawyers because we work with phenomenal lawyers. You want a great lawyer, we'll help you find one. But I could rattle off 100 off the top of my head who would never say something stupid like, no need to mitigate or prepare because I know the judge. Now, if they have a relationship with the judge, that's great. Or if they have a relationship that's based in respect, that is wonderful. I want your lawyer to know the intricacies of the judge, the mannerisms, how many people should attend a sentencing hearing. How long, for example, should a sentencing memorandum be? Judge Wilson, my judge, for example, really valued brevity with character reference letters. So while I had 16 letters, I only turned in 6. I could have had 100 letters. I only turned in 6. My lawyer, Joel Athey, understood that Judge Wilson favored brevity. Get to the point. So I want your lawyer to know the details of what could motivate or move a judge to downward depart. But too many times defendants let their lawyers off the hook and are afraid to hold them accountable. Where is the sentencing memorandum? Why aren't you preparing me for the probation report? Why aren't you investing the time to help me create this narrative or reviewing the narrative that I wrote? Why aren't you doing all of those things? Well, the reason they don't do it is because they've got this, well, my lawyer knows the judge. It's all good. There's not a whole lot for me to do. But what's also stunning is how many people going through the system are really sharp. They're executives, they're business owners, they're leaders. They know how to hold people accountable, yet at times when they become immersed in this wretched system, it's like this skill set. Everything they knew in building a business or leading a otherwise law-abiding, fulfilling life goes by the wayside once they become entrenched in this criminal justice system under the idea, my lawyer knows the judge. I think here on YouTube, it's important to acknowledge when I make mistakes. I have always said the biggest mistake defendants make is waiting to prepare, right? It's like, I believe when you're indicted or you get a target letter, you're already in the bottom of the eighth, that a lot of lawyers say, don't prepare. It's fine. Let me go through discovery. It's too early. Just chill and relax, right? It wasn't too early to get indicted or get fired from the bank. All of the consequences that begin to accompany it. I always said that was the worst advice. I stand corrected. Based on what I've heard this week and what I've heard over the last 14 years, the new, biggest, worst mistake the defendants can make preparing for sentencing is when they get lazy, are afraid to hold their lawyer accountable under this ridiculous, sickening, tragic, miserable, awful idea that their lawyer knows the judge. And by the way, if your lawyer really knew the judge and they were buddies and close, the judge would probably recuse himself, right? Do you think, come on, let's be realistic. Do not have a deliberate indifference to evidence where judges tell us, whether you call us or not, and sure, it's in our interest to film these videos, in part because some people do pick up the phone and call us and work with us, but we also have more than 1 million words online that are free. Scores of books you can read for free. Blogs, videos, books, courses, testimonials that you can learn from if you choose to never pick up the phone or do anything other than watch and implement. So as I close this video, opening with my friend who used to assess people's adjustment in prison based on fantasyland versus reality, I beg you, whether you call us or not, I absolutely beg you, do not get lazy and do not be afraid to hold your lawyer accountable. Oh, my lawyer doesn't send me bills, but he knows the judge. My lawyer doesn't call me back, but he knows the judge. My lawyer says the PSR interview is 10 or 12 minutes, not a big deal. He knows the judge. It's sickening and it's tragic. Be different. I'm begging you to be different. Take action, invest the time, do the work, and if you've pled guilty, demonstrate through your own efforts why you're worthy of leniency, why you'll never return to another courtroom. And if you've pled guilty, as we tried to articulate to the executive in Southern California, do not outsource the work to your lawyer. They're paid to say why you're great. And we want you to work with the best lawyers. We work with the best lawyers. In fact, on the 25th of this month, I'll make a large presentation that I will film for YouTube and post to scores of criminal defense attorneys in New York. I'll film it, I'll record it, I'll post it here so you can hear the ways that we encourage defendants to mitigate with their lawyer. And I can assure you, the lawyer that invited me to speak is not someone who would tell a client, no need for you to do any work because I know the judge. Be different. Think differently and you'll have a better outcome. Thank you very much for watching this video. Oh, by the way, got this new mic. Many of you have said, hey man, like the videos. Sometimes I don't hear you that great. So my business partner, Michael Santos, came over, helped me set up this mic. And we also have the White Collar Advice podcast launching here soon. We have about 50 pieces of content in the queue that we're going to build out, all with the goal of helping you prepare and mitigate and not live in fantasyland. I'll close, by the way, with the first time I heard the phrase fantasyland. If you're still watching, you haven't turned off this video yet. My father, brother, and me loved the 1986 film Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield. And we used to repeatedly watch when Rodney Dangerfield was in the classroom and this professor who had no business experience was talking about how to build a construction company, and Roger Dangerfield would jump in and say, that's not how you do it, this and that. And the professor would say something, and then Rodney Dangerfield at the end said, how about Fantasyland? So I've always loved that phrase, and I used to laugh inwardly when the prisoner would say, these dudes are living in Fantasyland. Forgive me for running off on a tangent, but now I'm 47. I thought I'd share that little tidbit when I was 11 years old watching movies with my family. Please like and subscribe to get out of Fantasyland, embrace the reality of the situation, as tough as it may be, and you will have a better outcome at every stage of the proceedings. Goodbye.
Sure, the Teamsters like to have a little chat with you, and that'll cost you. Oh, and don't forget a little something for the building inspectors. Then there's a long-term cost, such as waste disposal. I don't know if you're familiar with who runs that business, but I assure you it's not the Boy Scouts.
That'll be quite enough, Mr. Mellon. Maybe bribes and kickbacks and mafia payoffs are how you do business. But they are not part of the legitimate business world. And they're certainly not part of anything I'm teaching in this class. Do I make myself clear?
Sorry, just trying to help, that's all.
Now, notwithstanding Mr. Mellon's input, the next question for us is where to build our factory.
How about Fantasyland?